Hello, welcome to ComposersCAPE. What episode? I have no idea. I want to say 11. Lots of stuff to talk about. We took a week off. And now we got WandaVision's last two episodes, the finales in the books. So we're definitely talking about that. Spoilers as usual. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Justice League news, just anything else. We got a lot of stuff to catch up on. So here we go.
Zombie Vision.
Zombie Vision.
Zombie Vision. We could sum up these last two episodes with that. Like what?
Yep. Zombie Vision.
Yeah.
Like a product.
Well, I mean, what else do you call it? And I'm just going to dive right in here and say that was that was crazy. Made me nervous. I thought, what in the world is going to happen with the Vision's corpse here? And clearly he showed up in there and was ready to kick some ass, reprogrammed or something. But it turns out that he's the actual Vision.
Yep, they made him believe. It's not like someone making an evil Vision's going to pop down to Wakanda and say, hey, hook me up with some vibranium and teach me how to make a super intelligent, how to craft it. They're not going to let him. Sure, you'd be like, get out of Wakanda now.
Well, there was something strangely recursive about that whole scene where you had the actual Vision who had been manipulated and had his programming kind of monkeyed with, and then this sort of fake magicked into reality Vision, this sort of version of Vision, reteach himself how to be himself.
Yeah, gave him back his memories, but I don't know if it's a plot hole or if it's going to be something, if it's going to end up being a plot hole, but it seems like, I guess they have combined memories, because if you remember, the Magic Vision doesn't remember being an Avenger or the events of Sokovia or any of that. Exactly.
And so there's so many questions there. First, let me say how hilarious it was that they started out fighting one another, and then the sort of coherent, cogent fake
philosophical discussion.
Yes, said, I'm gonna talk my way out of this. Let me attempt to reason and try to logic this guy off of a cliff. And it was kind of clever. I thought really interesting writing there, how they sort of wrote that in. Now I'm going to talk myself through this and discover that, lo and behold, this is the true Vision. And the coherent Vision was able to sort of monkey with his programming and sort of reset everything back to normal. And lo and behold, and now we're left with this. That's one of the biggest cliffhangers at the end of this show, in my opinion, is where did he go? He just flew off.
He just left. He's like, he just pieced out.
I guess he had to go do some soul searching.
I think he had to go get a paint job.
I mean, you would think he could just whoosh.
Maybe he'll figure that out. But I did have to laugh about a couple things. One, Paul Bettany punked us. He said, this cameo is unbelievable. He said, I will say that it's an actor I've wanted to work with my whole life. Himself.
Oh, God. Is that what
that's who the big cameo was? We were thinking it was.
Yeah, it was going to be Doctor Strange or Reed Richards or. Yeah. Okay. I just now put that together.
Yeah.
I missed that
we didn't have the show last week, so we didn't get to do what is referred to in the internet parlance as drinking our tea. Because in our last episode, we were like, is Wanda becoming the Scarlet Witch? And at the end of that episode, I was like, oh my God, we predicted a thing right on. But
cheers.
Yes. Wasn't you know what is the actor's name who played Agatha? I keep forgetting. She was brilliant. Like beginning to end of that series, she stole the show almost.
Lucky for us, I have IMDb open.
Awesome.
And her name is in here somewhere.
I love that her song was like #1 on Spotify week before last, the Agatha song.
Catherine Hahn. Yeah,
Catherine Hahn. That's
Catherine Hahn.
first thing I saw her in was Step Brothers.
Oh yeah,
and she was absolutely hysterically crazy in that movie.
Right. So I feel like we're going to talk about the kind of supporting characters and some of these accessory characters before we actually get to Wanda. So Monica Rambeau has absolutely entered the realm of Marvel superheroes. It seems very obvious at this point that she has developed superpowers and is going to be Spectrum. She at one point turns into some sort of pure energy as a bullet passes through her, and then just
I felt like she didn't do that on purpose either. She just jumped in front, so she's doesn't know how to use it yet. But
well, the strange thing is, she makes a comment to one of the kids. Billy. They have this exchange where, like, "Hey, that's a neat trick," and she says, "Yeah, I like yours too." And then at the end of the episode, it's just one of these things, kind of like Vision flying off. There's this huge thread left to tug on, which is, nobody says anything about it. Like, wait a minute, what?
Well,
did you just catch a bullet?
Credit scene.
What?
Oh yeah,
true.
And then the one thing, and I guess it's a superhero movie thing, and I guess they realize there ain't nothing they can do about it. It's like after Wanda pretty much held an entire town hostage, and she let him go. So, but she all right. She can go fly away.
Well, I don't think anyone
flies away, and they're like, "Cool, thanks for getting this human who tried to kill you while you enslaved an entire town."
Well, that was what I was thinking. At the end of the episode, you've got a whole bunch of witnesses there that saw, first of all, Wanda was being manipulated on some level, and she just defeated a supervillain. But then secondly, and I think most importantly, everyone's still kind of terrified of her. And at the end, they see like, oh God, she's even more powerful now than she was before.
Which
nobody just let her go.
Where the hell are the Avengers? Right. She just was doing supervillain stuff. Where was at least Doctor Strange and the other sorcerers should have realized, hey, there's some bad mojo going on there, because once it was determined that it was magic.
Right. There's an easy answer to that question.
We'll find out in the next movie.
It wasn't in the budget.
Right.
It just wasn't in the script. So we'll find out later. So Monica Rambeau, that's exciting. I don't have any idea if she's someone that's slated to appear in other shows. In a movie, is she going to get her own show?
You saw the post-credits scene, right?
Pretty sure we watched the post-credits scene.
Monica is taken into the theater.
Right, yeah. And they're going to take
and then
her
it's
up
a scroll.
And it was a scroll, right? One of the scrolls from
to take her up to be part of in space with
Sword.
Yeah, and with she's going to meet with Nick Fury. That tells me she's going to be in Captain Marvel 2.
Okay, so we do know for a fact that there's Captain Marvel 2 in the works.
Yeah, which pretty much means that's probably who's going to teach her how to use her powers.
Probably. And last thing I'll say about that, there's a character that I have speculated about for ages, ever since the first Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and we actually saw the Nova Corps briefly.
Yeah, Nova's coming. I think that's a show. I want to say that's going to be a show.
And I thought it was kind of odd in the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Nova Corps. First of all, I think John C. Reilly was one of the Nova Corps, but they were kind of rent-a-cops, sort of by the hour.
They were
in that movie.
Green Lantern,
unimpressive,
ultra light.
Yes,
the Green Lantern Corps, but they only protect one planet. They have no superpowers.
Yeah. Well, so maybe that's a hero that's going to make an appearance at some point, especially if they do take the route of this Young Avengers, and if that will include, because they are making a Kamala Khan show. And we're presumably getting a Spider-Man movie that's going to open up more of the multiverse. We may eventually see a Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, Spider-Gwen. Who are some of the other Young Avengers characters? Nova, the young Nova, who replaces the old, like, 70s Nova. Anyway, I'm getting way deep here. Let's get back to WandaVision.
So that's Monica.
Yep.
And yeah, that one, was very satisfying. Monica's arc was very satisfying.
In the last episode, Darcy's role was hysterical. It was perfect, but it was all too brief. We laughed in our previous episode of this show that we thought her sort of buddy cop moment with Vision in that not the last episode, but the one previous to that, where the agent's camp got absorbed and turned into a circus. And then Darcy shows up and Vision kind of frees her from the mind whammy. Yeah. That was hilarious. And then Darcy kind of disappeared for a day or two.
Yeah. My wife made a great point that when it's revealed what she was actually driving, that was why she was having so much trouble driving the thing in the first place.
Right.
But I will say that no one has hit more people or characters with a vehicle than Darcy. She has now hit Thor and the bad guy from this point. Of course, no one's been hit more times than Thor, since he also got ran over by the Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's true. These are great statistics. We need to start keeping track of this, right? Like,
we should do it like an ESPN, where when we talk about things, we'll have like a sidebar with the stats rolling down. Thor been hit by 2 times, once by the Guardians and once by Darcy. Oh my goodness!
So we finally get the Scarlet Witch, and as we, like you said, sort of, somewhat, maybe predicted, her origin or the source of her power, what it is that she does when she just starts wiggling her fingers and this crimson red energy stuff comes out. Right, we finally get this notion of much truer to her power set in the comics. She just has this innate ability to tap in to some kind of chaos magic, and she can just, bend reality to her whim, whether that takes the form of telekinesis or illusions or changing matter, right? All of that stuff seems to be, but she appears to have very little control over it. And so now, a couple of things we learned about her in this last episode. She's a very quick study. Apparently she can memorize runes. Is
that what she did? So she just did the same, because I was curious, it's how'd she, because obviously that was the night before I played my weekly Dungeons and Dragons game, so I was like, wait a minute, she just learned runes by seeing them once, and then
apparently
have her own runes, or could she just do the same runes?
Apparently the same runes.
Okay.
And if we could probably roll the show back, let's open up the episode, right? We'll probably roll that back and take a close look at them, but I'm willing to bet that they're the same runes.
That's a good idea.
And, I mean, does that take some sort of diligent scholarship or study in order to learn how runes work, or can you just copy them? And that's apparently what she did. Or maybe and just knowing this is the thing I need to do, her innate ability to just tap into the chaos magic. She could just envision what she wants to do, and I want one there, and I want one there, and I want one there, and voila. It was an interesting plot. I was started to suspect there at the end when she was feeding Agatha all that energy. I was like, she's up to something. This is all, it's an illusion, right? She's putting a rope-a-dope on Agatha.
I thought there were a couple things I was thinking. I was like, one, if Doctor Strange were going to show up, that would be the time. But then I thought, just forget story and everything. For story, it would be realistic that the less experienced magic user would be saved by the most. But there is no way, as a writer, I would ever have my show about a lead female character, and the very end of it, the white male shows up to save her. Hell no. That would be stupid. And it would have been a letdown. So I'm glad they stuck to their guns. And that was a pretty clever trick. What wasn't so clever with the writing was making Pietro something boner. That was rough. I'm not going to lie.
That was goofy. I'm still not entirely sure I understand that plot point. So, I mean, I think I do, but let's hear your take on that.
They're messing with us. They cast him to make us, I don't know. My theory is derived from the CW Flash and the way they handle multiple Earths. Mm-hmm. And this is me still clinging on to the multiverse being kind of subtly introduced with Pietro. It is not Pietro from X-Men First Class.
Right.
It's Boner, or whatever the hell his name was.
Yeah, Ralph
Who
Boner
just so
or something.
happens to be Pietro from X-Men First Class, his doppelganger.
Yeah. Yes.
If you remember that from The Flash. Everyone, everyone has their, for instance, Ezra Miller is Barry Allen in the DCEU, but Grant Gustin is Barry Allen in CW, but they're both Barry Allen.
Yeah.
So somewhere there's an Ezra Miller character in Grant Gustin's Earth.
Yeah, right. Who's
and
not?
Who knows? Maybe it's just Ezra Miller.
Right.
If they really wanted to be meta, then it would be Ezra Miller, and Ezra Miller would be playing Flash in the movie version of the Flash in that universe, and that would be
right. And so that whatever the opposite of drinking our tea is, that's a prediction that we're going to have to eat crow.
No X-Men yet.
Right.
And
that
to be
the hopes
fair,
for that connection, we had hoped somehow that was the Marvel Disney folks trying to write in a segue or a bridge to bring together the mutant verse into the Avengers sort of Marvel MCU.
Yeah, I feel like
didn't really pay off.
Kevin Feige said when they made all the announcements of the stuff pre-pandemic, he said X-Men's coming, but not for a long time. So X-Men are coming, but not for a long time, I guess is the moral of the story. It might be, we definitely are getting Fantastic Four and a whole bunch of other things before that. So
right.
I've heard that the Fantastic Four might be a way to bring in the X-Men, but that movie may be doing its own thing. I think I heard something random like Ant-Man. If they make a third Ant-Man movie, that might, because that was the first time I heard that they started talking about mutation was in Ant-Man 2.
That's one of the young Avengers I forgot to mention earlier is Cassie, Scott Lang's daughter.
Right, she's grown up.
Who ended up getting her hands on some PIM particles at some point. And rather than needing a suit, at least I think I'm getting this right, real hardcore, people in the comics might correct me on this. She gets her hand on some PIM particles and it actually changes her physiology. So more Spider-Man style, she has the innate ability to shrink and grow. And I think her name is Stature in the Young Avengers comics. And yet another character still, just to try to bring this back around, is Vision eventually has a progeny, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he has a daughter named Viv, who is part of the Young Avengers sort of circle. So part of that storyline in the comics, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't really know much about her origin at all, but I do know that Cassie Lang becomes a hero named Stature, who doesn't need the super suit. She just gets some PIM particles and it gives her innately the ability to become huge. She can grow like Giant Man. Anyway, we're all over the place today. Sorry, folks. We're going to bring it back around.
Well, no, actually, we were doing pretty good. So we we haven't done Wanda yet entirely, but before we do Wanda, I would really like to talk about Agatha Harkness. So is that it? And
right,
a little dark. It's like, let me trap you back in your head.
That's right.
In your own little mini universe forever.
Well, she left a back door and made a point of this. You can't leave me here forever, right? It's what if you're going to need my help. Yeah. And Wanda basically says, I know where to find you if I need you. See you later.
Yeah.
So she's not dead.
I guess we'll just watch the casting rumors for Doctor Strange 2, because that would seem like a good place for her to show up.
So I think Agatha, that it was a great dual sort of and they stretched it out over 2 episodes. I thought it was great how they had a supervillain moment, and oh gosh, Wanda's trapped and she's doomed, and how is she ever going to get out of this? And it was a very nice, very comic book moment where you had a supervillain and all is lost, and oh no, how's she ever going to escape? And then she overcame at the end. She kind of, by her wits and her ability to just overpowered the supervillain in the end, and hooray, she won. So that was well written. I thought it was very
And
satisfying.
you brought up something that I could not clear from my mind because I had just recently watched Man of Steel. The Vision on Vision fight took several, and I don't consider it ripping off. I consider it an homage, and I would really be interested to know if it was intentional or just luck. But there were several shots in that Vision sight that straight up seemed like shots from Man of Steel, which was the first movie that really did a flying fight great.
Oh.
The fight between Zod and Superman at the end.
Yeah.
One, there was the part where one of the good Vision took the bad Vision and was like raking him over the concrete.
Yeah.
Which Superman did to Zod in the cornfield while he was punching him. There were several instances where Vision tried to fly away and was just grabbed and plunk right back down on the ground, which is very famously done in. Because the one thing I loved about Man of Steel is only Zod is the only Kryptonian other than Superman that figured out how to fly, and the only reason he did is because he's was the most well-trained of the bad Kryptonians. None of the others flew. They all jumped.
Yeah.
And they never learned how to fly, and he didn't until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought they definitely were like, including, I swear they even did the most famous one where it shows it from like the perspective of your behind Vision flying real super fast and then flies up to the other one and is like,
bam. Yeah.
That is like probably the best shot of the fight in Man of Steel, and they kind of did it there too. So I thought, well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And
there were several of those in Man of Steel where you got one after another, and the camera was following right behind Superman, and you got this sort of, it makes me want to rewatch that now.
Oh, you got to. Layers, man. That's the thing with the Zack movies. It's all like. It's like watching Back to the Future. You can watch it 100 times and be like, I never noticed that.
Yeah.
But WandaVision. So that leaves Wanda. And wow, I was a little worried there at the end that she was gonna crack. And until she did the trick, the turnaround.
Yep.
The
scene, so gosh, so much to say. Saying goodbye to her imaginary sort of magicked into existence family,
being Vision die like fourth time,
and at the same time it was it's hard to put your finger on, because in one sense you feel like, oh god, this is heartbreaking and these people are right, they're going to wink out of existence, but at the same time it's, were they ever really there?
Right.
Did they exist? Were they just illusions she created for herself? And
I think they were, because they were constructs.
Right. And again, the constructed Vision was able to teach himself how to revert back to himself. We mentioned that earlier. So, if they're constructs, if they're created, they're very, very good, right? Very realistic. The kids, I have to say this, overall the show's fantastic. I thought it was a little on the nose, kind of cheeky, campy even, when all the feds and the government agents, right, the sword agents and everyone showed up, and WandaVision and the kids struck this.
No,
we're the Incredibles. It's
the Avengers pose.
Right. Even the kids.
Avengers movie, it's like, that was cool the first time you saw it, but then you go back and watch Avengers 1 when they all first get together. It's like, that's a little
cheesy.
Yeah.
Right. So that was funny. But then, the fact that she had to say goodbye to the whole family, I think it was very kind of mixed emotions. It was very well done. It was very touching. And then at the same time, satisfying, because you figure, okay, she's finally come to her senses. She's going to let this whole thing go, get rid of the hex, be on her way, and finally, right, get rid of this whole mess, and she's going to fly away. So, I think we started to talk about this before we started recording Rolling Tape, and I know you had some theories about this, considering the next Doctor Strange film, the multiverse, the fact that we have a pretty good notion that Wanda's going to play a role in that film. Is she just on her way to New York now to Bleecker Street. To
Wait,
go
wasn't
drop
the
in on
sun setting behind her?
I don't remember.
I think it kind of. I literally think it. Well, I think she was flying east. She's got to be going to New York,
Right. Well, I think that's a safe assumption.
or at least maybe she's going to Avengers headquarters.
Right, upstate New York.
She did not have one interaction that I am aware of with Doctor Strange in Endgame when she came back to life.
Correct. As far as I know, all she did was proceed to kick Thanos' teeth in. Yeah, it's one of those moments. I think we mentioned this in an earlier episode. She was pretty much had him on the ropes. And if it hadn't been for the fact that there was an entire army backing him up, if it had just been a one-on-one
yeah, that's
fight,
what the Russo brothers said too.
Yeah, that she.
And then Captain Marvel also had him on the ropes, but he cheated.
Oh yeah.
Captain Marvel was like literally pushing him back, and if you look real close, he pulls the Power Stone out and punches her with it in his hand, and that's the only way he's able to get her off of him.
Right. Well, so what does the future hold for Wanda? I think we both appreciated the fact that finally, after how many films was she in? Age of Ultron, Civil War, Endgame, and Infinity War, right? And so finally we get the version of Scarlet Witch who resembles her appearance in the comics. She creates this, she magics this outfit.
And you know that Elizabeth Olsen has to be so happy because she has very nicely, which I give her respect, complained about her outfits in the previous movies. She's like, how come I am the one that has to show off so much cleavage while everyone else gets to have these cool outfits? And now they gave her an outfit that is not, I don't know, Joss Whedon-esque.
Okay.
It's like a cool, that is,
yes.
I'm sorry, that is right now, currently, my favorite MCU outfit. Her ending Scarlet Witch outfit with the what do they call those hip capes?
Oh, right, a butt cape.
Yep. Which is interesting because that's this guy Boss Logic on Twitter who does fan designs and stuff of superheroes did one of his concept of Supergirl with the same thing.
Okay. So you get a version of Scarlet Witch who, and this is very consistent with all of the other kind of outfits and costumes and things in the MCU, where it's very functional. It looks believable. It looks real, right? Like something that has sort of reinforced parts and like kind of heavy duty kind of leather, or even, certain of the characters have what appears to be like ballistic fabric and ballistic plating and things like it looks very functional. And yet it still looks very faithful to their appearance in the comics.
Well, that's interesting because I could talk about the Flash outfit that's a lot of people find divisive and that I love, that is purely functional.
Yes.
His outfit in the movie is all that stuff is like, so when he runs into things, it doesn't kill him.
Yes. Right.
But I've heard that in the Flash movie, the suit he will have is actually designed by Bruce Wayne. The one that they showed in but anyway, that's that.
Yeah.
So I love the whole run of the series, and
it's great.
And it was genius in that I am even more ready for Doctor Strange 2.
No doubt.
Than I was before. And Doctor Strange, we just rewatched that. That's still one of my favorites. I just love it.
Yes. It's a great movie. So
maybe it hits musicians more because his hands are screwed up and you're like, ooh.
Right. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what they do, what direction they take with Wanda's character and what's going to come of that film. And again, I believe we have, Vision now will exist, and they have that character available, right, for future films and movies. He's apparently alive.
Well, here's the hilarious part. And first, my wife and I are watching it, and Vision flies away. He's like, well, where the hell's he going?
Right.
It's like, why isn't he helping? And then it's like, and then later when Magic Vision reunites with Wanda, and the whole rest of the episode, it's like, you gonna tell her?
Right. Yeah.
He has
You're not going to even
freaking
mention that?
idea, which means at some point there's going to be another meet cute, and it's not going to go well.
Right. No, I agree.
Because she is
that'll be
still
good.
the one character that can destroy Vision left alive since Thanos is dead, at least in one timeline or two.
Maybe this is the last point I'll make about this whole relationship, and not to get too necessarily hung up on the differences and similarities between the MCU and the shows and the origin of these characters in the comics. For people who are aware of Vision's origins in the comics, they are quite different from his origins in the films. And Vision does not have the Mind Stone in the comics. That's not a part of his.
Well, he does it in the movies now anymore, either.
Right. And that's all I was going to say is now he's, more of a, I guess, faithful representation of what he actually is in the comic. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. He may be wandering the earth as some sort of blank slate at this point. Like I said, maybe he's on a beach in Fiji somewhere.
Well, I feel like
to figure out who he is.
What they implied is that they only blocked the memories from him that they needed to block to be able to maintain control, but they would have left his memories of the Avengers and stuff because they needed him to have his combat prowess and the ability to use his powers and all of that. Right. Not sure how he's still able to shoot beams, which was another thing that was a huge homage to Man of Steel. Every time they shot the beam, they did the same thing Henry Cavill would do, that kind of, it's like I must flex when I shoot my beams or they don't work right.
That's right. It takes a lot of concentration.
So we got a few things for the second half of the show.
Switching gears to Detective Comics.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll do that. That's a good idea. We'll do that first. So this has been a big week for, obviously I have decked out in all the gear because it's been nothing but since Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've started getting character teasers. First we got Batman. Lots of neat. These are filled with Easter eggs. We could, for each one of these 50-second long teasers, we could do a whole breakdown of each one. It's crazy how many little tidbits. So, and then we got Superman on Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're getting a mini trailer for each
Aquaman. I'm sorry.
Each of the characters.
It was Batman, Superman, Aquaman, The Flash. We still got Cyborg and Wonder Woman left.
Right.
So, secret number one, and I know I'm not the only one to figure this out, but I'm surprised I didn't. They are dropping at, what time zone is 2 hours ahead of mine?
2 hours ahead, that would be Mountain Time. No, 2 hours ahead. That's out somewhere in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about that is he's dropping them
Iceland
every morning,
Greenland,
in California time at 9:14 a.m., which works out to 2:14 somewhere. Don't know where. And the significance of that is the the Snyder cut, as it originally was supposed to be shown in theaters, what he refers to now as the compromise version, but anyway, was always referred to as the 2:14 cut. The one that he had in the can that only needed to have the visual effects done was 214 minutes long. So he drops it at that time. So for me, it means at 12:14 tomorrow, the next teaser is going to fall.
Okay.
Fall.
Well,
so 11:14 for you.
This is a good opportunity for me to say how much I hate trailers. Simply because I don't want to see the movie before I see the movie.
Well,
some trailers you just have to watch. I get it, right? You go to the movies, you get a teaser for a film that isn't due out for another 4, 5, 6 months, and it's like,
well, that's rough.
But the constant sort of, something is just forthcoming here in the next couple of weeks. I just don't want to watch. I don't want to see any more of the movie. I just want to watch the movie.
Of course, on the flip side, this is a 4-hour movie, so you aren't even seeing a drop in the bucket of it. And
that's right.
He's not going to show you. Zack is definitely not one that's going to show you something if he doesn't have that's going to be a that's going to ruin the surprise.
Of course.
I mean, the fact that he showed the Joker means that there's a much bigger surprise in that scene than just Jared Leto's Joker in his outfit.
I wanted to ask real quick, and we're going to probably talk some more about the film and what's coming. As someone that's currently watching slowly but surely and watching the second season of the Titans show, which is just Titans. They're not Teen Titans. Apparently, they're Titans. Deathstroke is a major villain in that show.
Oh yeah,
that's not spoiling things for anyone. You mentioned at one point, I think he's going to make an appearance in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League.
Yep, we're going to see Deathstroke probably a couple times in the movie, from what I've heard. Because one, we're going to see him at some point in the movie. Apparently, like what you saw in the post-credits scene that was of Justice League, he shows up in his outfit, the actual orange and black and all of that. But he's also apparently going to appear in the nightmare sequence of the movie. That, I mean, it's not a spoiler that that's happening because it has to happen. Otherwise, the thing in BVS would be dumb. So here is the way he's going to look.
Okay.
Nightmare sequence. And that was actually some of the little bit of extra footage that Zack was able to film. Good grief, it's been almost a year now to finish up the cut. He also had to film that, and he had to film some stuff with Harry Lennox. You know what that means, right?
Yeah. Well,
the Martian Manhunter is going to finally make his appearance.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, you made a bit of a prediction with him likely being John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, and there's a very clear, audible, just a sentence from him for the Zack Snyder Justice League trailer. The last time I listened to it, of him saying, "Oh, I'm going to butcher it." The quote? I've sat and watched too long with this world without doing anything about it.
The IGN interview. If you watched the whole IGN interview, they were doing fan questions, and then the next one of the fan questions was literally Harry Lennox, and he's like, big fan. He's like, I was really excited to hear. He's like, so you said that Martian Manhunter is going to finally make his appearance in Justice League. He said, so has my character always been Martian Manhunter? And Zack was like, I've always thought of him as being General Swanwick, as being kind of a character that Martian Manhunter created, that he was always Martian Manhunter. So Here I am, the weekend before last, watching Man of Steel, and I'll be damned if every time they show him, how Zack does his kind of semi-monochromatic color. I swear, maybe it was just my brain doing it, but every time they show him, it seemed like it's all kind of like it's got this green light in every scene where it shows his face up.
And he's got, he's wearing an army uniform, which is green. If I'm not mistaken, he's got his general's uniform on, is very green. And
then so you think there's a Secretary of State or something. So
there's a little bit of a green tint. Which is kind of scary
to think about it.
Well, yeah, actually.
But
interesting. Okay.
And the best part, if you really think about it, when they show it's the "You Are Not Alone" sequence when General Zod first contacts, he's like, there is one among you that is not one of you, and then it shows General Swanwick. I can't say it today. It shows him, and he's got this look like. It's like for a second, Martian Manhunter's like, "Are you talking about me?" Until it becomes clear they're not, because he knows. Well, I don't know how many Green Martians survived, and the thing is that Justice League, Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League 1, 2, and 3 were all supposed to be an enclosed story arc. Warner Brothers forced it to be. They wanted to be the MCU, but he wanted it to be a closed story, i.e., why Jimmy Olsen is a CIA agent.
Yeah, undercover
in the first scene or one of his first appearance in Batman v Superman, instead of it's an Elseworld. Zack, I don't even think he considers his Justice League Earth Prime
canon, right? Yeah.
other people do. I know Patty Jenkins specifically said we've always thought of our movies being connected to Zack's.
Well, did Jeff, good Lord, Jeff Jones, who was it that penned and had the most to do with the Earth One series of stories that came out in DC Comics? Are you aware of what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
It's exactly what you're thinking of. Because you got a parallel Earth, sort of, again, multiverse. We need to rename this podcast "Stories from the Multiverse."
Yeah, I think that one might be used.
DC has a series of books they did called Earth One, and they are, in a sense, what if stories. They're kind of reimagined, re-envisioned origins, and they have they strike a much different tone with some of these origins with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the big three, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that they did others, but if you've never read them, they're actually quite interesting, especially the Superman origin, because if I'm not mistaken, that's the book that actually, the thing that is very just overlooked, maybe not overlooked, but the component of Superman's kind of physiology and his Kryptonian origins that no one ever pays any attention to, because, he's the sort of apex tough guy, and no one ever considers the fact that he might have possessed an alien intelligence, right? That he's super smart. But if I'm not mistaken, the Earth One origin story for Superman is he wanders around Metropolis. When he finally shows up in Metropolis, he wanders around for months trying to figure out what he wants to do. And he goes into this kind of biochemical engineering firm, and sort of they've been working for years on this equation, right? And he just comes in and is like, see, you guys have been doing it wrong the whole time. And they all like lose their mind. Right. Oh my God.
Yeah,
and
I think they've always kind of shown Superman as being, I mean, maybe not like that. That's more of a Bruce Wayne / Barry Allen.
Right.
But
but
to be honest,
he tries
in a movie, you really don't want to make Superman. He's not stupid, but you definitely don't want to make him smarter than Bruce Wayne, or Bruce Wayne's running out of anything.
Exactly.
Like, what can he do?
Exactly. Yes. But yeah, I think in that story, he tries to walk onto like an NFL football team. He goes and tries out for an NFL team, right? Just shows up and he's like, I want to try out. And everybody's like, no. I mean, he's holding back, right? But he just breaks all the records. And it's just like a half a dozen things he tries to do. And everyone's just calling him. His phone's ringing off the hook. Come work for us. And finally he decides, actually quite similar to in Man of Steel at the end, where he's like, I need to find a job where I can,
keep my ear
travel and sort of, not be questioned too much. Why are you here? Why are you stirring up trouble? Why are you asking questions? Right. Where I can kind of go wherever I want to. A reporter sounds good. So anyway.
Funny enough, the New 52, a lot of what they did with Man of Steel and with the way the characters look was based on that, which, as you know, is Jeff Johns played a large part in that. So
yeah. Well, speaking of,
Jeff Johns is probably done with Warner Brothers. Oh, I know Joss Whedon is, but
without jumping in that rabbit hole again, I wanted to say this. Speaking of, some of these aspects of the characters, and I know we've mentioned at least once on this podcast, talking about the Robert Pattinson, the Batman, and potentially that being developed as a movie and a story that would hopefully develop Batman's kind of detective angle a little more strongly than any of the films ever have, with the possible exception of the original Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman film, in which he played more of a detective type of character.
No, I got that vibe from Batman v Superman.
Yeah. And the
Ben
Affleck's version was not bad.
We're going to get that vibe very strongly in the 4-hour Justice League movie.
Okay. Well, where I was going with that is, Batman, his true superpower is he's the world's greatest detective, right? It's been branded that way in the comics for a long time. And it's just that angle of Batman that has never been exploited effectively, I think in my opinion.
Matt Reeves is going for with the Batman.
Right.
And believe it or not, I think that's what Ben Affleck originally wanted to do with his movie script, which from everyone I've heard that read it and talked about it, we are probably losing out on one of the best Batman movies ever.
Well,
it was going to be Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke, pretty much tearing him down, his psyche down.
Okay.
But it was good. You remember when in Nightfall, when Bane let loose all the villains in Arkham?
Yeah.
Wear Batman down before he fought him?
Yes.
That was similar what was going to happen.
I think what I was getting at here is, there's kind of this age-old question is, how is Bruce Wayne, who's just a vanilla mortal, able to hang and be in league with these sort of demigods, right? And
remember how the fight went against Doomsday.
Oh, sure. He's Sherlock Holmes, and he's a ninja, and he's a billionaire, right? When you have the combination of those three things, he's capable of doing a lot. Supposedly his real superpower that he brings to the fight is that he can outthink and anticipate and out-strategize just about anybody, right? Including Superman.
Actually, him and Wonder Woman are the pair when it comes to strategy.
Right. So,
and they're bringing the team together. I don't know that. I mean, and this is one of those things that the more you think, like I'll admit, and I don't know. I remember if you said you were too, but the first time I saw Justice League in theaters, like this was a good movie.
Yeah,
but it didn't
enjoyable.
stick with me.
Right.
And now just this conversation alone, it's like, well, they made a mockery of probably the best on-screen version of Batman ever. I'm sorry, Christian Bale. That was a cool version of Batman, but that wasn't
for different reasons. Yeah. No, I
Batman, scary, smart. He had some of that.
I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan, and I think we've mentioned this before. Love those movies. Love Christian Bale's representation of that. But again, there's an element of what you're talking about, of this sort of ethos and the mystique, and really, in a way, the kind of superpower of Batman that was missing from those movies, which is that you don't ever get the sense in the Christian Bale and the Christopher Nolan trilogy that he's this brilliant sort of detective, right? That is just, he's outsmarting everyone, and he's just a step ahead of everybody, right? Because otherwise, where's Rachel? Where is she?
And he also couldn't do, remember the faces, and this is just, you put that cowl on Ben Affleck, and he could do the faces that just would like give you shivers. Like the one where he kind of like leans into the bad guy, like in the warehouse fight, the greatest Batman fight scene ever.
I agree.
Zack Snyder and Richard Citron, who was the guy who you saw for most of that scene, the stunt double for Batman, claimed that they top it in Justice League. So,
okay. That. Yeah.
But
no, I agree.
Remember when he gets Lex in the cell at the end of Batman v Superman, and when he moves real close to him, and he does his thing where he tilts his head down. He had another advantage. He's the first Batman in a realistic cowl like the comics that could turn his head. They made sure that the cowl looked like a Batman cowl and he could turn his head. So he didn't have to do the weird Michael Keaton Batman turns.
There was a strange moment in The Dark Knight where, Lucius Fox is basically, he's having this conversation with Bruce Wayne. It's like, oh, you want to be able to turn your head.
Right.
Well,
they made those cowls out of rubber. I would love to know what they made this out of. It looked, I was, for a second, it looked like it's like some sort of denim, but it's like reinforced in spots so it keeps its shape. I don't know. Yeah. But it turns. He can turn his head and he can lean it sideways. And
sure.
I think that's why the very first time you see the costume in motion in the first trailer for BVS is when he's coming around the corner with his head kind of tilted, which, spoiler alert, that's when Superman was dead.
Yeah. This reminds me of the scene in Batman Begins at the very end where they're on Arkham Island and, Rachel's up on the roof with him, and he has to turn like this and go, "You'll never have to."
Yeah,
his neck doesn't move. It's okay.
So yeah, that's
So here we are.
11 days now.
Yeah, 11 days.
You're going to be able to watch that movie on the day of. I know it's a Thursday. It's like you're going to come home from work, eat dinner, and throw it on,
that'll be rough. I don't know. We might have to wait until Friday. That'll be tough.
Oh well, I did mean to. Zack and actually Deborah Snyder really clearly explained what's going on. It is divided into 6 chapters.
Okay.
And there will be clear places where you can pause it. And they
we can watch it like a show.
chapter
We can
names.
binge it like a show.
Yeah.
Like for a good weekend.
Yeah, you want to know what's funny is I have a feeling it's one of those things where it's like, I'm just gonna watch the first 2 chapters, about hour and a half or so of it, and then it's like 4 hours later.
Can't stop.
Oh,
Yeah.
first there is no end credit scene, so Zack was definitely it. All right, so you ready? Here are the chapter names. Part 1 is Don't Count on It, Batman. Part 2, The Age of Heroes. Part 3, Beloved Mother, Beloved Son. I'm guessing that's Cyborg's backstory or Superman's back. I don't know. Part 4 is Change Machine. Part 5, All the King's Horses. And here's the kicker. The last part is called Something Darker.
Okay.
This movie's not going to have a happy ending. I don't think. I don't know.
Well,
all I know is it's a big, huge cliffhanger.
This may be getting ahead of ourselves. Let me ask you this, since you seem to be far more nose to the kind of finger to the wind and keeping up with the news and the information about these films than I am. What do we know at the moment about a next film?
Here's what he keeps saying, and Zack Snyder doesn't post an image or say a thing without it meaning something.
Okay.
Every time he's asked, he never says a sequel isn't happening. He'll always say something like, Warner Brothers has shown no interest in a sequel. He's like, but also this never should have happened. So every time he says something like that. So, and then they've been really, you hear, he's been really like, a lot of people need to watch, because if you remember, Wonder Woman 1984 in its first weekend was greenlit for a sequel. And so everyone's thinking, well, this needs to have more streams than Wonder Woman 1984. And this needs to be the most streamed movie ever, Right.
Yeah.
Because it's the most tweeted about movie ever, and it never has been seen. So it's a whole unprecedented thing. So the impression I'm getting is, if you know anyone who's remotely interested in seeing this,
right,
they should sign up for HBO Max and watch it.
Yeah.
Or buy it on digital. It'll be available on digital later in the month. And if it gets a lot of viewership, but like we were saying off camera, for lack of a better term, Warner Brothers, specifically Hamada, is they don't want to, they kind of, the rumor, I have no sources. What I've read is they don't want it. It seems like they don't want it to happen. For instance, when Zack Snyder tweets a teaser, and then the HBO Max will retweet it, HBO Max will do it, Warner Media will, AT&T will respond, and Warner Brothers, it's crickets. I mean, how else are you supposed to interpret that?
Well, we'll see. I guess that's the answer.
It just, I just have a feeling it's going to blow up. It just has that feeling to it. But you know what? If you would have paid attention to Twitter, there have been several times when Twitter made you think something was just a given, like, I don't know, the election of 2016, and then something totally different ended up happening. So I guess we'll find out. I will say this. If you don't want to accidentally hear reviews or reactions, the screener, the virtual premiere is the 15th. So that is when you probably want to shut down your movie news, social media.
Sure.
For just 3 days, but still, if people have something to complain about, they'll be the first ones to speak up.
Right.
And there are people revving up to give it negative reviews without having seen it, just because I don't know. There's some sort of weird Zack Snyder hate thing. So on that note,
I don't know that we know anything else necessarily to talk about other than we're waiting for the movie to drop with bated breath. We may have another episode of the show before then.
Yep. Let's see what happens, because now we're in a mini show hole And then everything kicks off that week. We got Justice League on Thursday, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier, which looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and another similar, somewhat adultish. It's a rated 14, so that should be a little more fun. Looks like it's going to have lots of great action, and those two are going to work well together, I think.
No doubt.
But that's all. That's the 19th. That's the day after, and then Godzilla versus Kong is 2 weeks after that. Which I'll probably watch that. I'm excited to see that fight.
So we talked briefly about this book club idea, and after throwing around several ideas, which I think we do still have some ideas, and there's some very obvious choices for this, and don't want to necessarily start out with some books that have possibly been done to death.
Right. Not saying we won't do those though.
Such as The Watchmen, which is classic. The Dark Knight Returns, also classic. But I think in honor of WandaVision wrapping up, and to have a really good kind of segue and some story behind that, and as a good sort of version of this, we thought about reading The House of M. Yeah. Which contains some of the source material for the WandaVision story, a little bit, to a degree. Not exactly, but
I haven't read it yet. So this has got to be on the. How much of it do we want to do, you think?
It is. How many pages is this book? Let's take a look here. I know we opened it up before. This book is WandaVision is 280 pages, or I'm sorry, House of M is 280 pages. The collected edition that contains all of the. So House of M was originally released in episodes, right? Where you've got issue 1 through 8. 1 through 8. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so the compiled, story is 280 pages.
Okay.
There may be a little bit of that. I'm of course looking at the digital version, and there may be a little bit of that where the compiled edition includes some artwork and some extra pages in there. So I tell you what,
maybe I'll see how far since you've already read it, I'll see how far I get.
Right.
I
been a while.
I can probably read the whole thing, but I may want to actually take notes so we can talk about it. Yeah, that's our plan. We're gonna start with House of M, and then we'll try to get this conversation going. And
who knows, maybe if this takes off, if people are interested in this, always leave comments. If you are interested in more of this, if you're interested in even participating, and shoot us questions.
This is our weekly begging for comments. Come on, y'all.
Yeah. If it isn't obvious to anyone that has actually listened to us talk in this podcast, we are fans that are we do not discriminate. We are fans of Marvel. We're fans of DC, sci-fi and fantasy authors. We've talked about some books in the past. Going to read pretty much anything that interests us, watch anything that interests us, and who knows, maybe we'll even make the jump to Valiant Comics one day, because that's one of these other publishers that I'd taken an interest to in recent years, who actually have some really interesting stories. But we're going to start with a Marvel title, House of M, and maybe we'll just alternate. Maybe the next title we'll choose will be a Detective Comics story.
There's some interesting ones. All right. So that's it for this week, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Zombie Vision.
You cannot dodge the Omega beams.
No, you can't, because they zip around. I can't wait to see what those look like.